This program is brought to you by the Vegetarian Society of Hawaii, a nonprofit organization dedicated to sharing with the community the many benefits of a vegetarian diet. Free monthly meetings include vegetarian experts found locally and on the mainland, quick and easy cooking demonstrations, and healthful and delicious food samples. Members enjoy an informative quarterly newsletter, social activities, and discounts at many vegetarian-friendly restaurants and health food stores. For an application, call 944-8344. That's 944-8344. Or visit our website at www.vsh.org. vsh.org.
From a handful of pioneering founders back in 1990 to becoming one of the largest vegetarian organizations in the nation, we've continued to promote human health, animal rights, and the environment by means of vegetarian education. If you're not a member yet, we would love to have you sign up tonight if you wish. Start receiving our informative newsletter as well as some great discounts at some veggie-friendly restaurants and natural food stores, including Down to Earth. We'd also like to acknowledge our wonderful meeting volunteers tonight. We've got Cyrilak at the reception table. We've got Patrick at the literature table right now. Yay. We've got Carl. He brought a beautiful lei tonight for our speaker. Thank you. And also in the kitchen, we have Georgie Yap, Stephanie, and Bob. And Stephanie also brought delicious vegan food that we're going to be enjoying tonight, that's going to be prepared by Chef Paul Onishi. And we really appreciate that. Thank you. Next month, we're moving our meeting to the Alawai Golf Course Clubhouse on Tuesday, April 20th at 7 p.m., when our special guest will be Bizarro cartoonist Dan Ferraro. Internationally syndicated cartoonist Dan Ferraro will discuss his humorous journey to seeing the logic behind veganism. We're taping tonight's presentation for broadcast on the VSH TV series Vegetarian. On Oahu, you can watch it on Olelo Channel 52 every Wednesday at 11 o'clock a.m. and on first and third Thursdays at 6 p.m. You can also go to our website, vsh.org. That's vsh.org. You can see videos of many of our previous presentations. You can also find lots of other great information there, including recipes, our famous restaurant guide, past newsletters, and even a link to our new Facebook page. It's now time for our special guest. We're delighted to have with us tonight Chef Paul Onishi. Chef Onishi has been demonstrating and instructing people in food preparation and presentation for over 25 years. He has worked as one of the first sushi chefs to be trained in America, owned and managed catering businesses in California and Hawaii, and has taught cooking classes around the country. This evening, he will present Buyer Beware. Please welcome Chef Paul Onishi.
This is going to be a little bit different format for me. I'm used to keeping my hands busy as I speak. When I found out from Carl that I wasn't going to be doing a usual demo because of the kitchen facilities, I had to kind of switch my format. Should be interesting. You know, this is more like a stand-up, maybe comedy routine. I don't know. We'll see. But I did make something for you to eat. Guarantee it's fresh because I did it, a little while ago at home. And I think it's noteworthy that I did happen to make it at home for you in a regular, home kitchen because it can show you for the quantity of food that I made. And when I start getting into how I made it, it might help you to, get a little more creative and feel more comfortable about doing what you do, because it is about preparing food in the right way. And I guess tonight I'm going to share a lot of my journey. It seems like another religious experience to me, but it is a lot like that, because a couple times I fell off the wagon, so to speak. I presently teach at Farrington High School. I'm the head of the Culinary Academy, which just started this year at Farrington. Before that, I was teaching 17 at-risk kids off campus. The program just grew, and now I teach about 150 kids a week in our new academy, and it's going to be growing even more so next year. Now, because it is not a vegetarian culinary academy, for a lot of the kids, if you give them a can of Spam, they'll be happy all the time. Spam and rice, little furikake here and there. I have noticed a change in the eating habits of young people. There was a time, I would say just 5 years ago, when you couldn't find a young person that was comfortable eating fruits and vegetables. And now I can, introduce them to a lot of different vegetables. For example, kale. I integrate that quite a bit into, a lot of the stir fries we do, or, any chance I get, there's always an opportunity to introduce people to a healthier way of, cooking, presentation, and making it look good. You need to have food that looks appealing as well as tastes good before people will even, step up to the plate. And what I found too is that in my own personal journey, which started off about, I'd say now, looking back maybe 12, 13 years ago, when I went to my urologist for a usual checkup, and he gave me the C word, and the C word was the cancer word, the prostate cancer. I did not expect that. I thought I was doing pretty good, but as a restaurant owner at that time, my life goal, and this is the truth, my life goal was to find the best ossobuco and tiramisu anywhere in the country. And wherever I went, I would search out, either who had the best dessert or ossobuco. My diet from when I was in high school, when I watched that filet of fish commercial nowadays, I laugh. I mean, they didn't need to advertise for me. I just kind of took it upon myself to, my typical diet. And I'm not kidding, at McDonald's. And I remember when I moved away to the mainland, I was at the McDonald's on Michigan Avenue in Chicago. At that time, I was in advertising, wore a three-piece suit every day. And I went to this McDonald's on Michigan Avenue, and I ordered my usual order, which I always ordered at home, which was 2 Big Macs, filet of fish, large order of fries, and a chocolate shake. And, I was a lot thinner then. But I thought personally that was the way you're supposed to eat. I'm not sure how I got this in my mind, that you're supposed to eat till you just feel kind of like you're semi-choking, but that's the way it was. And if I wasn't at McDonald's, I was going to, in high school, Kenny's Burger House, which is on the old site of the current McDonald's. And I used to get a beefy boy, which is a teriyaki burger with onions, a cheesy gal, which was a hamburger cheeseburger, chili with rice, a large order of fries, and chocolate shake in one sitting. I'm not talking about, other times. This is what I used to consume. I remember going to Leonard's, ordering 2 dozen malasadas, 1 dozen for my friend, and then we'd each drink a quart of milk and just sit there and just pass out and belch, and that was entertainment.
How much did you weigh?
I weighed about maybe 145.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I couldn't find the picture of myself 10 years ago, but I keep it, and I used to take it to my cooking classes. I'm a wellness cuisine instructor at Castle Medical, and sometimes when I take the picture just for fun, a picture of my mom and I, people say, "Is that your brother?" Because I'm the guy that, I got myself to the point I used to turn sideways. I don't know if you remember those old comic books where you see the guy with the beer belly and the triple chin. That was me. I was just like that, triple chin way out. And I thought I was fairly healthy. I didn't exercise for beans, never lifted weights, never ran. It was like too boring. However, what I didn't realize, what was happening on the inside, started showing up when I lived in California around 1986, when one of my friends said, there's a lump on the back of your neck. And I said, so what, that's a muscle? She said, I don't think so. Looks like some type of a growth to me, and I got offended. She said, you better check that out. She started pressing on it. I said, see, it's hard. It's like a muscle. She said, I don't think so. It doesn't look normal. And I kept looking in the mirror and trying to justify, my body type. But when I went to the doctor, he says, I think we better check it out and, have it biopsied. And I remember being kind of semi-put out and on my stomach while the doctor cut it out. And he kind of held that in front of me, and he had a piece of fatty lipoma that was about this. It looked like a hamburger, like the kind of hamburgers I used to eat, only a double cheeseburger. And it was a clear, milky thing. And he shook it in front of me, and he said, and the nurses and the doctor were all laughing. He said, look at that, it looks like a little turtle. It has a head and four legs and a tail. I didn't think it was very funny at the time, and I still have a scar about this big that, went across my neck. But he said, that's a fatty tissue, and at that time, eating healthy wasn't in. And so I had no clue as to what I put in my body and what the output was. I just knew that if I was alive, I didn't smoke, I was, being able to go and do my normal activities, everything was fine. But what was happening on the inside, that's what I started putting two and two together. And it wasn't until one of the doctors noticed there was a little, nodule right in the back of my spine, right about there. He brought it to my attention, and he said, I think we better check that out because we need to take it out. Now, this one wasn't anything, but when he dug this one out in the middle of my back, just the way your body's structured, I couldn't bend over, I couldn't, lie on my back, I couldn't make a turn, but it kind of started working on me as to why these things were happening in my body. Once again, I didn't connect it to what I used to eat. But when I did find out that there was a connection, many, many years later when my doctor said, you keep up this diet with the ossobuco and the tiramisu, you're going to be wearing a bag on the side of your leg, having a prosthetic device, and, that's going to be your lifestyle after we work on you with your prostate cancer. So he scared me well enough that Thanksgiving, it was a pretty, I would say, a lonely Thanksgiving at the table because, in Hawaii, that's when you start, the trek to pig out all through New Year's, and there was Thanksgiving, Christmas, and I remember going to a friend's house. They had the, smoked meat over here, the shrimp, and I remember limiting myself to one piece of shrimp, and that was the only meat I ate. And I said, hey, I don't want to die. I literally scared myself, and I cut out all meat, all fish, all dairy, all desserts. I lost 35 pounds in 3 months. My waist size went down 3 notches. This was without exercise. My blood pressure went down. My body fat went down. And then on my birthday in January, I got that notice from HMSA to go in for Health Pass. And when they saw my numbers, they said, what are you doing? And I said, what do you mean, what am I doing? They said, your numbers are great. I said, I just changed my diet, around Halloween. I said, whatever you're doing, keep on doing it. You do any exercise? I said, nope. He says, well, you must be doing something right. Can we monitor you for the next 6 months? And they did. And they literally, with the numbers, kept me, motivated. And I saw that there was a connection with what I didn't eat and what was happening to me. And I went down to the same waist size I was in high school. I felt better, and at that time I was running a restaurant in Manoa, and I had kids that were 15 years younger than me, coming from a night of drinking and partying, just dragging all over the place. And they couldn't understand how I had so much energy. I couldn't really understand it either, but I wasn't going to complain because I was happier then. And I found that because of this change in my diet, I wasn't, every year I'd get sick 2 times. Major, January, February, I'm down for the count 2-3 weeks. But I found out that, hey, I didn't get sick for a year. I didn't get sick for a year and a half. I didn't get sick for 2 years. And all that had to do with my diet. And, when I teach classes at Castle Medical, I ask for a show of hands. How many are still eating red meat? I got about, out of class of 25 people, maybe about 5 or 6. Then I say, how many are doing fish and chicken? Then about 10 of them. Vegan, hardcore vegan, maybe 1 or 2 in the house. And then we go from there. So I'm just going to ask you folks, how many of you here are kind of curious and you still eat red meat, chicken or fish? Yeah? Okay. How many of you are kind of eating healthier by eating fish or chicken? Raise your hand. Okay. All right. How many of you are lacto-ovo vegetarian, meaning you eat eggs and some dairy products? And how many of you are vegan? Okay. Well, I would expect higher numbers here being the Vegetarian Society. But it's interesting the number of people who are here. I guess out of those who raised your hand, you're here out of curiosity? Yeah? Or the doctor sent you here? Or he warned you, that's why you decided to come visit us for the evening. The reason I titled this talk, Buyer Beware, is, as a practicing chef, one of the biggest culture shocks that I experienced was, okay, now that I changed my personal lifestyle, how is that going to translate into my job? And I remember going to Kokua Co-op, down to earth, 10 years ago when they didn't have a lot of these, products they have now. And you are so blessed to have the kind of things that technology has brought to us, to help us to eat better. However, what I have found is a lot of marketing, a lot of technology, they slip in products and little things here and there that give you this feeling like you are, eating healthier, but all they're doing is jumping on the bandwagon because they see another meal ticket only with the healthier folks. For example, if you see cheese that has casein, yeah. Some products that are supposedly healthy for you, if you trace that back to the same products in the Carnauba car wax that you're ingesting. I'm going to focus my attention tonight on sugar sweeteners, artificial sweeteners, because I'll just go back to set the stage. I was doing a presentation. They asked me to do candies and sweets, healthy sweets at Castle Wellness, and I thought, man, this is going to be tough. But I've got to try and do some research and see if I can come up with a decent class. Well, that turned out to be one of my best classes ever, and I learned a lot. But I also stumbled upon some information about artificial sweeteners. My wife used to get terrible headaches like for a month because the neurologist told her that the 3 most favorite things she liked to eat were off her list. Cheese. She used to like to chew gum, which had aspartame in it. She used to like to eat chocolate. And then also the stuff in red wine. It was all, causing that serotonin, charge in her back of her neck. It wasn't until the doctor mentioned that to her, brought it to her attention, she stopped it for a while, and it actually worked. And we started seeing that, the aspartame in the diet drinks, the aspartame in the gum, that she used to chew regularly, it was just being ground into her system. And interestingly enough, when I went over to the bookstore to get do some research on this particular subject of sweeteners to formulate my recipes and do this class. The first thing I saw on the shelf was a dietetic Bible. Okay. Interestingly enough, I said, man, this is what I need. I pulled it off the shelf. I started, skimming the different recipes. Mainly I had to get to, the sweet part, the cookies, the cakes, the candies, whatever they had in that section. But I noticed wherever I, opened up to, they had either equal or sweet and low. And I thought, this is in the dietetic Bible. This is really, amazing. So I did some research, went on the website, and all of a sudden I'm going to read to you. I mean, now this is common knowledge, but for those people that still use those products, the artificial sweeteners, there's top 10 dangers of artificial sweeteners. More calories than you think. They definitely mislead you on, or one of them is Splenda. How many of you still use Splenda? I bought a whole bunch of Splenda because the marketing on it and the cookbook caught my attention at Costco. And I hooked into that. And when I read the information after the fact, I couldn't even give it away. I couldn't even, pass it off, and I sure wasn't going to let my kids use it at school. Headaches, gastrointestinal problems, allergic reactions, male infertility, panic attacks, cell damage, depression, central nervous system disorder, and cancer. Now, I went on the website on this particular subject of Splenda, and this particular study was done, when they do studies on laboratory animals, especially rats, right? You know why they choose rats? Anybody wonder why they chose rats when they, decide? Because the way their systems react is similar to the way humans will react. So if they fed rats artificial sweeteners, the way rats develop tumors and have nervous disorders and things like that, supposedly that's what is going to be mirrored in humans. However, the FDA says they do the testing to say that, we've done testing. However, in the case of aspartame, which is equal and sweet and low, they did the test on the rats. The rats came out conclusive with tumors, all kinds of, part of those 10 different things. And they still brought it into the public, and they never really, blew the whistle on anything. Because aspartame, for example, doesn't have the same stringent, guidelines as other food products. However, in 15 years after they brought it into the general public, people came up with the same physical problems that the rats came up with, and that's when they pulled the plug. But during that time, a lot of people developed, lifelong disabilities because of, that particular choice. And what this person was saying is with Splenda 2, they only tested Splenda for 3 months. And she's saying, why not 6 months? Why not a year? Because now people are coming back with ailments directly related to that because the level of sugars is, spiking. Okay? So that's why I say buyer beware. And I've been duped myself having to use these products and thinking that I was, using them in a healthy way, creating healthy recipes. Yes?
Did you know that Donald Rumsfeld is the guy that pushed stuff through the FDA?
Yeah, it was right in this particular article. Yeah. And I was kind of surprised, but, you wonder, what's happening. A lot of it is that we are guinea pigs, and sometimes we don't find out till, we start developing those ailments. But because of my choice with McDonald's, that's, just stupidity and maybe an island mentality that told me that I wouldn't be satisfied until I had 2 Big Macs and the fillet of fish. And if I didn't have my large order of fries and the chocolate shake to wash it down, I wasn't going to be happy. And of course, I never left any, leftovers. I ate every bit of what I bought, because that's island mentality too. But, it came up to almost kill me. I'm here to talk to you, especially those of you that are somewhat motivated. Just being here is good. And like myself a few years ago, if you can't necessarily find the right restaurant that's going to suit you, and like today, my wife and I ate it down to earth. I spent $17 on a salad, But to me, that's insurance, You pay up front or you pay later when you got the oxygen mask and you're, under the tent because you ate what you wanted. For example, I've got Bragg's Amino and I've got Agave Nectar. Now, what can I do with this? Okay, I can make teriyaki sauce. If I use the vegetarian oyster sauce, vegetarian Worcestershire sauce, I can make some killer marinades that'll taste just as good, way, way more healthier for you, and nobody will ever know. Okay? If I add garlic and ginger to this combination here, it's great. Now, why agave? How many of you have even heard of agave nectar? Okay, a lot of the promotion for this came about when Costco started carrying it, so people got curious. And I, for one, got curious too. Just came back from Sedona, Arizona yesterday. All the top chefs have at least 3 or 4 menus, either appetizers, in the entree, or in desserts, using agave whenever there's a sugar substitute. You don't find too many people using straight sugar anymore, and there was a time when I was using turbinado, which is just a different form of, sugar. And how many know what brown sugar really is? Brown sugar is white sugar with molasses. Big deal, yeah? Change the color. Now, agave nectar, for those of you that buy the stuff but don't really know the background on this, the Aztecs used this thousands of years ago in their food, and for people that were, quote, special, that needed priority diets, they would put this in their drinks as a medicinal type of beverage. They also found that it was used in a salve and for medical purposes, and it was also used. I was curious to read that this particular agave, when people have done testing on it in modern time, it fights that staph infection that's a pus related. You can use it as a topical, and it actually fights staph infection. Now, remains to be seen, but the fact that people have actually done tests to prove what people used to do 1,000 years ago is quite interesting. The agave plant takes about 7 to 10 years to produce this particular plant. There's about 100 different varieties of agave plant, and after 7 to 10 years, they harvest it, they cut off the leaves, and what they harvest is the inner core, almost like an artichoke. You peel away the outside. It is like a succulent in the same family as aloe. And what they harvest is a large, what they call a pina, about 50 to 150 pounds. They take that and they squeeze the juice out of it, that syrup out of it. And the way they get to that syrup processing is they expose it to very low heat, 118 degrees. Because the heat source is low to extract that nectar, a lot of the raw food people consider agave in that form as a raw food source. So that tells you something right there. I know a lot of people use stevia, and this person that was talking about the aspartame and Splenda mentioned that stevia is very, very popular, comes from South America also. However, as far as using a product, for my purposes, using it in the kitchen, to be able to pick up a product like this and I cook by smell. I can go up to a recipe, smell it, and say, too much salt. Or you need some sugar in there. Or you would broaden the flavor if you put a little Dijon mustard. I don't know how I got that ability, but it helps when you can't taste, but you still need to make a decision. And pretty much I'm 99% on. When I use this, I can estimate the same proportion of sugar that I would put into a dish, only I use that, and it's almost the same. Now, what artificial sweeteners don't do is they don't produce the same result when you're cooking. For example, baking depends on sugar a lot. When you use yeast products to make your dough rise, you need to have sugar in there so that the yeast will feed on that, and that causes your leavening, and it causes your leavening. And if you put an artificial sweetener in a baked product, there's a tendency for that product to deteriorate a lot faster. Okay? If you use more of a regular sugar or agave, it acts to protect the product from spoilage. And also agave is what they call a bridge product because it has a low glycemic index, meaning when you ingest this particular sugar, the nectar, in a food product, it doesn't cause your body to spike up and cause that insulin reaction that aspartame has. Bless you. So, any questions so far before I kind of talk about what you're going to be sampling tonight? Yes. My wife has found gum that does not have aspartame in it. Your question, let me see if I understand correctly. You're saying that you personally haven't found any gum that is without aspartame. And yeah, if you go to the Down to Earth, we used to go to Huckleberry and get that particular gum. I forgot what brand. I don't chew gum, but my wife swears by this. And just as an aside, when my kids in high school, they got these real exotic packs of gum. It's like the old Juicy Fruit and Double Mint gum. Only they charge you probably about $3 more in advertising to come up with this. The packaging is really, it's out there, black with mint. So I called. It says, if you have any questions, call the 1-800 number. So I called during class. I put it on speakerphone so our kids could hear. And she says, oh, there's red dye number 3 and blue number 2. And I think, is that the green or the... And the kids are going, whoa, And they said, well, what's so wrong with the food coloring? And then I explained, they went on the website on their little PDAs, the kids all got this stuff. So they went on Google, they Googled the food coloring, grossed themselves out, and now they don't chew that gum anymore. But there is gum available. There is gum available. I'm sorry I don't have the name. Yeah. You got to ask for it. Just ask them which, that's it. Spry. S-P-R-Y. I guess it tastes decent enough to put it in your mouth and chew it, but it works for her. Yes. Is there a liability issue for people that okay these products? Obviously not, because if you got the FDA, putting out the aspartame when they knew it was causing tumors and brain disorders. Oh, the other thing I read is it has formaldehyde in it. And so nobody's disputing it either. If someone's challenging and saying, the tests haven't proved conclusive, they are not backing. It's pretty much on the other end. Yes. The question was, this lady cannot understand why in the food industry, especially for people like myself who are involved in the food industry, why there are not more guidelines and monitoring. I'll tell you two stories. Well, yeah, two stories. The first one is one that we would know about because we get the trade magazines and we deal with this kind of stuff. And it concerns, the stuff they used to put on the salad bars? Sulfites. They used to have it in Ore-Ida potatoes, hash browns. They used to sprinkle it on the salad bars to keep it fresh. Well, what was happening was, if I was an asthmatic, it would definitely trigger my asthma. And it wasn't until 13 people died across the country, and the last one was this guy, I guess he was somewhat influential, went to a prominent restaurant, went to a salad bar, they had sulfites on the bar, he got his salad, went back, and he immediately got into an asthma attack and he died. But it wasn't until that 13th person that somebody said, oh, wait a minute, I think, there's a trend here. But if you're the guinea pig, one of those 13, it's like when they decide to wake up is when you're going to get, The other thing I tell my kids, and I say, you watch the commercials, with Jack in the Box? That whole campaign, and I say this because I used to be in advertising in Chicago, and I used to do corporate identity. And our job was basically, we're prostitutes. We would take a product, we would do whatever it took, we'd throw money at it, we'd decorate it, we'd design it, and we'd push it so that you as a consumer would willingly shell out money, go shop at a certain place, buy this particular car, do whatever, because we have made you feel that you need to go and do this, buy this, see this, visit this. And when I read about, I'm going to backtrack here. How many of you remember when there was a little girl, I believe she was somewhere in the Midwest, went with her mother to a Jack in the Box, ate a hamburger, and she died? There was no antidote. I mean, she just died. And that was after a whole bunch of people around the country were eating hamburgers at Jack in the Box, and within a couple hours they're vomiting, and they died. And people in the emergency rooms couldn't figure out what was happening. Well, we in the industry got this article, about 6 months later. There's a company, Hudson Meat Company, who was responsible for producing all the hamburgers that got distributed not only to Jack in the Box but to a whole bunch of other places. But it just so happened that Jack in the Box had the tainted hamburgers, and they were selling them. And the whole reason why Jack came about with the head, because they needed to do something fast. They needed to change their image, otherwise they're going to go bankrupt. Now nobody questions, right? The sack drops, you get the latest promo on what they're selling, and Jack's a funny guy. Put him on your aerial, and go buy another, shake, another breakfast, whatever. Now, when they tracked back to what was happening with this Hudson Meat Company, they tracked it back to somewhere in the Midwest where this guy had a neighbor who had a chicken farm. The guy in the chicken farm was producing more manure than he could, deal with. So it shows a picture of this guy. The pile of manure is 12 feet high. The circumference is probably about, imagine your group here, this wide, 12 feet high, all chicken manure. He was just bulldozing this stuff into a pile every day. So he goes and he's talking to his buddy next door who's running a cattle ranch. He says, hey, how'd you like to cut your food costs? The guy says, sure. What do you got in mind? He says, how about if I take some of my manure, I'll give it to you free. That'll help me out because there's no way I can deal with it. And I'm just creating positive stuff every day. You just mix it into your feed, and that way, economic for you, save costs, you'll be doing me a favor, fine. Now, that's how it started. Now, in the hot sun, what's happening in the inner core of this manure pile is all this toxic gas is being produced by the heat. So when the toxic gas was being produced, it went into the chicken manure, got mixed into the feed. The cattle ingested it all the way to the slaughterhouse. It was in their chemistry, all the way to the consumer, and that's how the people got poisoned. See, we hear about this in industry. You guys don't, because a lot of people would go broke. I mean, you can't lobby against that stuff. But, there's a lot of people that they make sure that the curtain will never come up on this kind of stuff. Maybe that's why I'm standing before you tonight, because 20 years ago I was teaching a class in Los Angeles, and I remember going to a Chinese restaurant and they just doused it with MSG. I walked out of there and wondered why I was just getting spikes of pain here, here, and here, and here. I couldn't even go back to work. I didn't understand what Chinese restaurant syndrome meant, and until someone, in the mainland brought it to my attention, and they said, yeah, it's just stuff they throw in the food. Well, coming from Hawaii, you got good enough chefs, you don't have to tweak it and doctor it like that. But I started doing some research, and someone told me that, yeah, you know how they get their broccoli nice and green, right? They throw in the MSG. But it wasn't so much about that. He said, what MSG does is it allows you to taste more than your body usually allows you to taste. And what it does is monosodium glutamate opens up these little taste receptors here in your tongue that allow you to taste, and you go, wow, that's the best broccoli I've ever eaten. And that's true. However, what it also does is it opens up other taste receptors that cause you to, react in a negative fashion. And this is what, the Ajinomoto, MSG, and that's why you see the MSG now with that, the no MSG, because so many people were reacting badly. That's why people weren't, too successful before getting people to go to their restaurants when you do tours to China, because when they take you in the back kitchen, there's the chef with this huge wok, right? They throw in the chicken, they throw in the vegetable, they throw in the sauce. All of a sudden, he reaches down into this little straw basket, gets a handful of this white powder stuff, and he just dumps it in. And someone asks, what's that? He goes, oh, that's MSG. And they realize that for, a portion like this for 2-3 people, you're getting about a tablespoon of monosodium glutamate in your food. Yes. Yeah, the question this lady had concerned the instant saimin noodles, the dried saimin noodles, because you were made aware that there was possibly more MSG inside of that than you were aware of. Yeah, let me answer that by telling you about another thing that I was, indirectly campaigning about. That was hydrogenated oil. Yeah, I was talking about hydrogenated oil over 15 years ago when I was doing cooking classes in LA. And I should have kept the article, because there was an article that came out in the LA Times about hydrogenated oil. Those of you that don't know about hydrogenated oil, they take regular vegetable oil, they put it in a chamber with hydrogen gas, and they spin it. And what they do is the hydrogen gas, I'm just simplifying the process, but hydrogen gas and plain old vegetable oil put into this chamber with pressure in this centrifuge starts creating a paste. Okay? Now, that's what produces margarine. Right? And for generations, people were eating Mazola and Promise and all the hydrogenated oil. Come out in the LA Times that says this stuff will kill you, and the day will come when the same warning that's on the cigarette packs, like the Surgeon General, is going to be talking about this particular product. That's why a couple of years ago they had the major recall. Yeah. Now, what happens if you keep spinning it and you go beyond the texture of Promise margarine, which they sell, which has that? Now, the reason why hydrogenated oil is bad is because when you put it in the centrifuge with the hydrogen gas and the vegetable oil, that's one of the man-made products your body cannot ingest. Your body cannot break it down. So what happens, it goes into your arteries, and that's what clogs your arteries. That's what's causing that, plaque. So all these pastries that, you're talking about at least 20 years worth of pastries, all these products that had hydrogenated oil in them. We're the generation that grew up with that stuff. And to answer your question in a roundabout way, anything is possible, because if it's for a buck that's going to help somebody get richer, they don't care. They might not eat the stuff themselves, but they make sure you do. Yeah? And I guess that's what really started, getting me upset. It did. Because when they pulled that turtle out of my neck and, that gunshot wound out of my back and, well, as soon as it comes into the public eye, that's when they know that they start getting scared. And that's when they throw advertising at it. And they try to either, they pull the plug on it and you'll never see it again, or you start getting these disclaimers and, a little bit of... Is it still legal? Well, MSG is still legal because they're kind of shamed into, it's kind of a no-no. But hydrogenated oil, definitely, if you get caught, I think you can be fined using that stuff. Now, if you kept it in that centrifuge and you go past margarine, you know what happens to that mixture of vegetable oil and hydrogen gas? It turns into a brick. And you can take a sledgehammer, and if I had a brick of that hydrogenated oil, because I left it in the chamber too long, I'd have to take a sledgehammer to break it. And if that's what's happening, if they push a product that much, guess what's happening even in a butter form in your arteries? Okay? A little spread on your English muffin in the morning. I remember that's what my mom and dad used to do. Yes?
So what can we eat?
When they started coming up with this hydrogenated oil scare, the margarine, and people said, this is before the Smart Balance, right? We use Smart Balance if we have to use butter. But they were saying, go back to the butter, it's safer. So it's kind of like they tap dance, when the music's good over here, they jump to this side. And at the risk of someone, taking a contract out on me, there is a group of people that produce vegetables here in this city, that they sell their vegetables down in Chinatown. And their vegetables always look really, bright green and healthy and stuff. But I remember when they were starting off their business, they were fined and they almost got shut down because they were purposely using a DDT even at the warning of the state that was taken off the market. And that DDT helps prevent the bugs from getting at it. Also helps this nice green color. But,
But the rats still appeared.
Yeah. That's another one. But these people, I won't buy stuff if I know it's from them. All I'll say is they got nailed for that violation with the workers. It's going to depend. Well, a lot of people grow vegetables here in Hawaii on that old pineapple land. And I remember when we went to go visit, the UH, and now they have, washed 3 times. Why would someone have to advertise it washed 3 times? Because someone was getting salmonella after eating the product because they opened the bag and they just used it straight out. Well, let me tell you about an organic chicken story that I heard, okay? This is an industry thing. You know what the guideline for organic is for organic chicken? That means if I am running a farm that raises organic chickens, if I have them penned up like you hear all these horror stories where they can't even move and stuff, as long as I open the door and I let that chicken go down the ramp and run around in my yard, I qualify for having a free-range chicken. That's the truth. If anybody wants the recipes for these 2 things I'm going to feed you tonight, and if you kind of like them, I've got 10 recipes here, first come, first serve. After the recipes go out, you can give me your email. I'll send you an attachment on them if you're that motivated. I had a budget at Down to Earth, so I maxed out my budget very nicely. I found this at Down to Earth. Now, this is mung bean pasta, okay? If you're going to make this dish, which is japchae, Korean noodles, do not use mung bean pasta, okay? I had some friends that told me about this product here. Unfortunately, it has no English on it. You just have to go with the look, okay? You see the green package, you see that rectangle up there. After that, you're on your own, okay? Because there's an orange packet with the same noodles. There's one that's down below, and I'm just glad I had a good memory from the time I was shown the original product. Now, I brought this extra bag. In fact, I brought the 2 extra bags, so in case you want to go find it, first come, first serve, you can grab the bag, okay? I'm also going to show you the noodles, okay? These are very different from mung bean pasta, okay? One reason why I never use this, and I'm not trying to badmouth anybody, but don't go to the store if there's one product that I just kind of like, it's the Nice brand noodle. It's Nice brand, okay? You put your stuff in chicken long rice or japchae, it turns into mush, it soaks up all your liquid, and all you got is this jelly mass of noodle, okay? This particular noodle, I mean, you can beat it to death, but the thing will still hold its shape. What I do is I take this, I put this in a little warm water, just to kind of get it to be, flexible. And then when I'm ready to use it, then I add it in, test it along the way to make sure it's cooking. Now, I decided to make 2 recipes today that involve using agave. One is like an appetizer dessert, or you can even put this over ice cream. It's basically, I went to Down to Earth, I bought some raw almonds, I took a little bit of agave nectar and a little bit of grapeseed oil. I heated the grapeseed oil and agave nectar in a pan until it bubbled. I threw in the nuts. I added a little salt and pepper, a little bit of paprika on there, and the one thing that you could really, boost this up is to get dark chocolate and melt it and pour it over it and just, make your own clusters. But that would just blow my whole budget at Down to Earth for today. So what I did was I got some organic cranberries that were, nice. They're a little bit hard, so what I did was I took some cranberry juice, I rehydrated the cranberries, and I poured a little agave nectar into the cranberries. They got nice and soft and chewy. Then I folded it into the almonds here. So you could take this, you can have it like a little snack, or you could put it over ice cream, but you'll get to taste this. This is, you're the guinea pigs. This is the first time I ever did this, okay? And I'm going to show you this in the pan. Okay. This is a japchae. This is about 15 pounds. Okay. Now, one thing good about this particular noodle dish is that once you set your flavoring, and what I did here was I took the Bragg's Amino, which is my substitute for shoyu, I took my agave nectar, and it's all a matter of taste. I created, for lack of a better term, like a teriyaki sauce that had that flavor with the sugar and the salty taste. I set it off to the side. Then I sauteed my carrots, onions, a little bit of garlic in the pan, and I put some yellow squash in here. I took that out because basically I'm making a whole bunch of pasta. I had the potato starch noodle. If you can't remember what the bag looks like, the one English direction on this is this little white square that says potato starch noodle. Then you're on your way, and then hope this picture matches what you end up cooking, right? Okay, so I threw the noodle into this concoction of carrots, onions, and garlic. And I bought some, about 1.5 pounds of mushrooms. Usually I would use a shiitake mushroom, but I figured you guys are worth it. I gave you porcini, I gave you morels, I gave you shiitake, and I gave you, there's about 5 different, there's a mushroom blend in here. So I boiled it, all the 1.5 pounds of mushrooms, which is not that much. And I did about 4 cups of water. I made this nice broth, sliced up the mushrooms, used the broth as my base, and I added the Bragg's and the agave. So I had this nice flavorful broth. Then I added the noodles into it, cooked the noodles until they were al dente. Then I combined everything together. Now, you're not only getting the carrots, squash, onion, both 2 kinds of onion, regular round onion and green onion, but you're also getting this lacinato kale. Okay, just picked today some of the kale. So as many people as want to have it, I will give you each 3 or 4 leaves to take home and try, because you can't get any fresher than this. This particular kale, I don't know how many of you have actually tried this. I use this quite a lot. When we go golfing and we need a quick snack, I take those. I don't know how many of you have seen those things at Costco, those oval wheat. They look like flatbread. I take that, I take the little hummus pack, spread it over the whole wheat. I take this kale, some chopped tomato, and I also put in here snow pea shoots. How many of you are familiar with pea pods, yeah? These are the pea pod shoots. They got a little bit of a slightly bitter taste. I put these in because they're real small and I didn't want them to overcook. I folded them in at the very end. I've stir-fried this, I boiled it, I've eaten it raw, and I've even picked it off an organic farm in Kona. And I like this one the best. But thanks for coming tonight.
Thanks. Thank you, Chef Paul Onishi, for such a wonderful talk and for teaching us so much about the industry from an insider's point of view. Really appreciate it. And thank you for bringing all this great food for us tonight, too. Thank you all so much for coming, and do go out and enjoy some of that great food before you go home.
This program is brought to you by the Vegetarian Society of Hawaii, a nonprofit organization dedicated to sharing with the community the many benefits of a vegetarian diet. Free monthly meetings include vegetarian experts found locally and on the mainland, quick and easy cooking demonstrations, and healthful and delicious food samples. Members enjoy an informative quarterly newsletter, social activities, and discounts at many vegetarian-friendly restaurants and health food stores. For an application, call 944-8344. That's 944-8344. Or visit our website at www.vsh.org. vsh.org.